Aboru aboye. Aboya boshishe. Peaceful blessings to all the good people. Hope all is well with you and your loved ones on this day of Ojo Ose, Ojo Obatala, as well as Ojo Ojo Aje, Ode of Wealth, and Ojo Obatala. Just going to give our folks a minute or two to join us. I know it's Monday, people are at work or working, so it may take a minute to be able to join us. But I hope all is well. I just want to share a couple of words about, what's going on, particularly with Orisha lifestyle and the mainstream media, and what it means when African spirituality jumps into the mainstream and everybody suddenly is talking about voodoo things in public, on platforms and in arenas where it's usually a taboo subject. So again, I hope all is well. I'm just going to let folks join us. You have the opportunity to share this link with folks you think would be interested in the subject. Please feel free to do so. We're just going to wait one minute or two. Boya Boshisho, Dr. T, Udil, good to see you. I think we missed you the other day, on Sunday, yesterday. But tomorrow's going to be an exciting day. We have our study group. We have a whole new subject matter to address. So that should be great. All right. Folks are streaming in little by little. Let me give folks one more minute listening to the sweet sounds of Brother Kunde with his Dahomey and lullabies. I love this music, and it's the only music I can play that's not copyrighted. The other day I had a video, and just 2 minutes. If we had a video, and we showed a segment from the Breakfast Club. Maybe 2 minutes, and it was copyrighted material, so YouTube blocks it, of course, and you can't show it or anything. So I have disputed it, and I got to see if it's possible to just run it with that content. Otherwise, I have to clip it out. But Kunde is great music, and it's not copyrighted. So peace and blessings to my sister Makila. How you doing? Blessings to you and your loved ones. All right, so let's get this party started, right? I don't have a lot to say. As usual, I want to be as brief as possible, but I'm observing what's going on, and Beyonce has done it again. Beyonce has done it again. I am not a fan of Beyonce per se. I think I probably know 2 Beyonce songs, and I've seen maybe 3 Beyonce videos in 10 years, and they all have, to do with African spirituality. Every time Beyonce does something that ropes in some form of African spirituality, she starts trending like crazy. Social media loses their marbles, and people start talking very passionately and vehemently about the subject matter and her and the way she portrays it, right? So there's always these different factions of people who are hardcore practitioners or Afrocentrists who don't agree with Beyonce being able to share what she shares because is she authorized to do so? And then you have the other group of people who are maybe on the hardcore Christian side or something like that, and they don't want Beyonce to share what she shares because they don't agree with it. They think it's demonic, right? And then you get the most important part of the conversation, I think, is just the fact that we're talking about African spirituality in the mainstream, and we're discussing um, our indigenous knowledge systems in the mainstream, in churches, in schools, and across social media. And I think that's the most important part of what happens with Beyonce's contribution. She gets us talking about things that otherwise are not part of the mainstream conversation, but they need to be. Not because everybody's going to be a practitioner of African spirituality, but because if you're a person of African descent, African spirituality is part of your heritage. It's a part of your lineage. It's part of what makes the black church different from the white church. The things that distinguish our worship and our reverence of the Most High, different from, regular Catholicism or regular Christianity, Protestantism or what have you, is the African element. It's our African identity that makes us who we are. That's our secret sauce. The thing that makes our dance different from mainstream American dance is the African element. The thing that makes our food different from American food is the African element. Our speech, our style of dress, everything that distinguishes us and allows us to stand out and define ourselves is the African element. Right? But that's the part that we have the least level of real knowledge about, and the least level of comfort with pursuing openly and overtly and explicitly. So when Beyonce comes out and does what she does, she's so high profile, she's so beautiful, she's so talented, she's so at the top of her game that when she does it, it's like people lose it. So I think it's great. I love that she does it the way she does it. The little bit that I've seen, I like it, because what it does is it puts people in like me, in a position where, okay, now I have to think about what this means. I have to think about, why is it that Beyonce is leading the conversation on African spirituality, right? Not to complain about it, not to somehow say it's Beyonce's fault, but to hold my own self accountable. Wait a minute. Am I who claim to be an exponent of Orisha lifestyle? Am I doing as much as Beyonce is doing to promote my tradition and my beliefs and my values? Is Beyonce doing a better job to manifest her values and her belief in African spirituality? She doing a better job at it than I am? Let me not necessarily to compare, and I'm going to try to compete with Beyonce, because obviously I can't. She has an enormous worldwide platform. But just from where I am I doing what I can do every single day, right, to demonstrate my values as a believer in African spirituality? All right. So that's where I think the best part of the conversation is found. That's the real root of it. We who believe should be able to do what we should be able to show what we believe, not just talk about it, not just complain when we don't see it, but if it's really, a part of who we are and what makes us who we are, then we should be able to demonstrate that. And that's what I like about Beyonce and her provoking us to do that. And so for me, it's about maturity. Okay, it's about maturity. It's about being an adult. Spiritual maturity, spiritual adulthood, spiritual eldership, spiritual leadership. All of those are the things that we have to start to embody more and more if we really want to respond to what we see Beyonce doing and other people doing, right? And to be an adult means to be responsible. To be an adult means that, when you're a child, somebody else takes care of all your tomorrows. That's one of the key elements of being a child. All your tomorrows are taken care of. What you're going to eat tomorrow, where you're going to sleep tomorrow, what you're going to wear tomorrow, what kind of entertainment you're going to consume tomorrow, what kind of vacation you're going to do tomorrow, where you're going to go to school tomorrow. All your tomorrows are taken care of when you're a child, when you're a dependent. But when you're adult, number one, you take care of your tomorrows yourself. When you're an adult, you take responsibility for your tomorrows. Where you eat, where you sleep, where you wake up, what you wear, where you go. All that is your responsibility at the very least as an adult. And then if you have dependents, then you assume responsibility for all of their tomorrows. That's part of being an adult. So, if as we start to mature in our spirituality, we start thinking about the tomorrows. What's the tomorrow of Orisha lifestyle? And whose responsibility is it to manage and create the tomorrow of Orisha lifestyle? It's not Beyonce's responsibility. Beyonce is a fine, super talented artist. Her job is to make sure that she produces very high quality art. That's her job. She's done her job. But for us who are the believers, our spiritual maturity, our spiritual adulthood means envisioning, creating, and managing the tomorrow of our practice. That's part of our job as adults. Otherwise, we end up being big teenagers. We're like 40, 50, 60-year-old teenagers complaining about what our mama and our daddy doesn't do right. Right? You ever see this? Sometimes you find adults who complain about their kids. Right? The what? You complain about what the children doing, but you're the adult? No, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. So if we say Isheshe Lagba, that Isheshe, the Orisha lifestyle is senior. Well, if it's senior, then we need to take a senior position. We need to position ourselves as the adults, and we need to start creating the tomorrows that we want to see. We need to start establishing the kinds of environments and realities that are consistent with what we know the tradition is supposed to be about. All right? So got somebody who's having a good old time in his little vehicle, got too much time on his hands. When I think about some of the great thinkers who I admire, they say a lot about the difficulty of maturity, right? Because it's one thing to recognize the importance of maturity, spiritual maturity in this case, but it's also important to recognize the things that obstruct spiritual maturity. What makes it difficult? One of the things is thinking. When you grow up, as you start to mature, you have to start to think more rationally and more globally. You have to start to think on more than your immediate urges and needs. That's part of it, right? And so there's a Yoruba proverb that says, when a child stumbles and falls, he looks to his left and to his right to see who saw him fall. When a child falls, he looks around to see who witnessed him fall. But when an elder falls, he looks down to see what tripped him up. When an elder falls, he looks down to see what tripped him up. So part of being an adult means learning from your experience and adjusting accordingly. You're not so concerned about what other people think or say about who you are and what you're doing. You really concern yourself with like what you're doing and what's tripping you up, what's slowing you down. I don't care what other people think or say. I need to know where I'm making my mistake. I need to know where I'm stumbling, which leads to another proverb. I think this is an Eastern proverb that says, "Don't correct a fool because he will scorn you. Correct a wise man and then he will praise you." Don't correct a fool because he will scorn you. Instead, you correct a wise man because he will praise you. Wisdom is synonymous with maturity. Okay, so in that regard, it doesn't necessarily have to do with how old you are. It has to do with how willing you are to learn, how willing you are to adapt, how willing you are to grow and see things again from a broader perspective, right? Because your immediate needs may dictate stuff that's good for you right now, but it's not what's really going to take into account everything that you're going to encounter 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years down the line. And that's where our maturity has to come in. We got to start thinking about the future, and we got to start planning for the future. We have to start organizing ourselves for the future, because that's what spiritual maturity is all about. All right. And so tomorrow is only going to be possible to the extent, or let me say, the tomorrow that we want for Orisha lifestyle, the tomorrow we want for the tradition, is only possible to the extent that we who are here today are ready, willing, and able to build, join, sustain, amplify, strengthen, improve institutions. Institutions are the things that survive, right? So one of my mantras is that, hey, I'm working for people. I'm working to create something that will survive everybody I know. I'm working to create something that will survive everybody I know. So everybody who I know on the planet, everyone who knows my name, everybody who recognizes my face, I love those people. I love you. I'm happy that we're here together. But I'm thinking about the time that all of us are dead. We're all going to die. That's a part of being an adult. Once you get to a certain stage of life and you start doing the math on all the things that you've done, good or bad, all the sweet, all the happiness, all the indulgences, everything that you've partaken of in this life, you say, man, I've done it all. All the difficulties you've had, all the sorrow, all the pain, all the betrayal, everything that you've suffered with. Man, I've done it all. I had it all. What's next? Well, what's next? The next big hallmark, the next big benchmark is death. It's death. Death is inevitable, right? Part of being an adult is recognizing what's inevitable. This is inescapable. This is part of the deal. This is woven into the program. Nobody is getting out of here alive, right? Here in the West, in America in particular, we want to be perpetual teenagers. We want to stay children forever, right? We want to look young and shiny, be a perpetual teenager. I'm a teenager with money. I'm 50 years old and I'm dressing like I'm 20 and I'm out going places that 20-year-olds go, and I'm doing, you understand what I'm saying? Not that we can't be in the same place at the same time, sure. But I don't want to be mistaken for a 20-year-old. I don't want to be mistaken for a 30-year-old, right? I worked too hard to get to my station in life to be mixed in with, the children. It's not where I want to be. Part of that is understanding what direction I'm headed into. Death is what awaits us all. All right. Now, the sooner you get clear about the fact that you are going to die, right? The sooner you're going to be able to then calculate how you want to live, right? The more clear and the sooner you get clear about the fact that you are going to die. You don't know when you're going to die. You don't know how you're going to die, but you know you're going to die. Now it becomes a question of, I could go at any time. How do I want to live? How do I want to live? What do I want my real contribution to be? Right? How do I want my contribution to survive me? Okay? That's where you start getting to the establishment of institutions, the growth of institutions, the maintenance of institutions. Institutions are what survive people. When you think about the pillars of any community, a real community, it has institutions that survive all of the members. Okay, so you may not be a person who's going to establish an institution that's dedicated to African spirituality. You may not be the person who's going to build a temple for African spirituality. That's okay. Join one, contribute to one, support one, help maintain one, contribute to one, right? That's where the tomorrows are going to be, because you can't just take, right? You can't take credit for everything. You can't do everything. Your claim to fame may be something different, But again, the way you make your values known and you demonstrate those values is by practicing certain things. And those things that you practice are things that contribute to the eternal presence of your values, making your values a part of the local environment that are like as eternal as a stream, as eternal as a boulder, as eternal as a mountain, as eternal as a forest of oak trees or redwoods, right? These are things that survive generation after generation after generation after generation, you know? And so I'm asking everyone who's looking and observing and experiencing all of the energy and the confusion and the excitement around Beyonce coming out and doing something African, right? Hey, look at that energy, right? Look at that energy. Where is it coming from? How can we improve upon it? How can we capture it? Every time Beyonce comes out and does something or anybody else does something, we need to have institutions whose job it is to cultivate that energy, right? To conduct that energy and direct that energy towards specific kinds of outputs, right? That's the nature of power. That's the nature of power. Power is greater than ideas, folks. Power is greater than ideas. Power is greater than ideas. Power is a three-part equation. You got a source, you got a system that conducts the energy, and then you got an output. These are the very general, basic explanation of power. If you don't have all three of those elements, you have potential, but you don't actually have power. If you don't have a source, a system, or some kind of an environment that conducts it, and some output, then you don't have power. Okay, and so African spirituality, as we mature in our spirituality, we come to understand and appreciate the inevitability of our temporariness. We're going to die as individuals, and the necessity, therefore, of building institutions that will survive all of us, institutions that will continue to cultivate those values and make those values evident and visible to anybody and everybody. All right. And so I really want to, again, reinforce the importance of what people like Beyonce are doing. She's doing a fantastic job. And B, to wake us up to the different ways, the more mature ways that we need to see it. Beyonce is an entertainer. If you look to an entertainer, right, and let me say this, I'm backing up in my thinking right now to just talk about another one of the pitfalls before I wrap it up. Here in America, we consume entertainment so much that we get lazy and we want to believe that somebody or something is supposed to entertain us throughout all the stages of our development. And so we're supposed to have something that we can just consume. You can just sit in front of a screen and you can go from first to second to third to fourth level of your development and your maturity just by watching Beyonce sing or watching somebody else sing. You're just consuming and you're just a passive, recipient. And that's not how maturity works. Grown folks work. Grown folks work from can't see to can't see. That's what adults do. That's what it means to take care of business. So as you grow and you develop in your maturity, in your spiritual practice, you take care of more business. And sometimes that means doing more rituals and more ceremonies, but sometimes it means also balancing more books, fill out more paperwork, making more phone calls, et cetera, et cetera. It means managing everything associated with building and growing an institution. Okay. And so again, this is something that I want you to challenge yourself. Hey, am I looking at my African spirituality like entertainment? Am I treating this like a hobby, or is this my destiny? Do I want to just sit there and watch and let somebody like just feed me pretty stuff and shiny stuff? It tastes good, I swallow. It tastes good, I swallow. It tastes good, I swallow. Now, is that how you are approaching African spirituality? See, because the extent that you are will prevent you from understanding the importance of building an institution, of being a part of an institution, of increasing the power and the viability of institutions. Because all you think is, hey, as long as somebody's showing me pretty colors, I'm cool. Yeah, as long as all your tomorrows are taken care of, yeah, you are cool. But at some point, you're the one who's responsible for the tomorrows. That means you got to build the institutions and the systems that will create the tomorrow that you want to see. And so for we who are practitioners of Orisha lifestyle, any variation of it, it's time for us to grow up. It's time for us to start maturing. And that means it's time for us to start building institutions, growing institutions, amplifying the influence and the scope and the power and the viability of institutions that will reinforce and perpetuate our values out into the world. So we're not depending on entertainers to be our spokespeople, right? Beyonce's doing everything she's supposed to do. When are we going to do what we're supposed to do? When are we going to patronize the organizations and the institutions that have assumed responsibility for our spiritual values and our cultural values? Right? I can tell you from my own perspective about what I do and what I have been doing. 5 years, you can go back and you see I'm doing the same thing. 10 years, you can go back. 15 years, you can go back. 20 years, 25 years, you can go back and you can see my track record. You can see me working and hammering away in the community, right? In the places that other people don't take the message. I go there. I'm not tooting my horn, but I am tooting my horn, right? Because people see and they'll just watch. Like entertainment. It's just like, oh, that's just entertainment. It's just somebody just waving the flag because it looks good. Oh, this is a guy just rocking the, African clothes just because it looks good. No. You got to put it into your mind when you see me. Oh, that's a guy on a mission. That right there. That's a man on a mission, and he's doing the work. I believe in that work. I'm going to help this person complete their journey. I'm going to support this person in doing what it is that I believe in. I'm going to invest in this person's efforts and initiatives to grow and perpetuate our belief system and our value system in the world, not just for today, but tomorrow and the day after, and 5 years from now, and 20 years from now, and 100 years from now. That's what we need to do. Those are the eyes we need to start seeing with. When we see the people who are dedicated, when we see the organizations that are committed, stop finding reasons to just watch or discredit or criticize. Invest, support, contribute. Because when you do so, you are helping to perpetuate a bigger thing. The very last thing that I want to say from an anthropological or nerd perspective, this is the way Orisha lifestyle has always been structured. You got people, there's a kingdom. The kingdom is like the patron of all of the tradition. The king and the palace are the patrons of the textile industry, the drumming industry, the carving industry, the priestly industries. All of those industries and institutions are patronized by the king. The king is their sponsor. He's their main patron, right? Now that we don't have a kingship that is rooted in the tradition, I'm talking about, you go into Nigeria, the kingship institution is no longer rooted in the tradition. The kings have become Christian, they have become Muslim, they don't want to really openly perpetuate their indigenous values. That's their thing. But as an extent, what happens is that we here in the diaspora, now we get in contact with people, priests and priestesses who have been operating without patronage. So they're hustling, they're scrambling, they're doing what they can to try to, come up with the money that they need to be able to participate in the modern society. Historically, the king would have been, one of their major funders. He would have been a major buyer. He would have been a major patron of those arts. But now those people are on their own. And so they're just having to come up with whatever they can. And so that affects how the practice is played out here in the United States, for example. So that being said, we have the concept of something like nonprofit organizations, right? We have the idea of a commonwealth. What's a commonwealth? Commonwealth is the beach, it's the river, it's the park, it's the forest, it's the bird sanctuary, it's the library, it's the museum. It's the sidewalks and roads and electricity. All that goes into the commonwealth. The commonwealth are things that don't belong to anybody, but they serve everybody. They benefit everybody. Our culture and our heritage is at the core of the commonwealth. Our spirituality is at the root of our commonwealth. We need to support the commonwealth by contributing to the spiritual efforts, supporting the spiritual temple, supporting the spiritual teachers, investing in their missions, right? So that they can continue to perpetuate again our values and our identity in the places that we want it to be represented. We need to invest in our own cultural commonwealth. Okay, so I want to urge you to get your focus together. Support the Orisha Lifestyle Academy. Support the School of Orisha Studies. Even if you're not a student, just contribute. Just contribute. You can if you want to know, you can go to my website obafemio.com/services, and you can make a contribution, every month. And people don't like the idea. People right there, some people are like, ugh, right? Ugh, you don't like the idea of me asking you for support, right? But then you got to ask yourself, who's going to support me? If you who consume the content every day, some of y'all have been consuming content, like I said, for 10 years, 5 years. Some people depend on the videos. You go to my YouTube, you read the blog, you follow me on Facebook. We have all these different, right? And you get a lot out of it. But the idea that you should support me in the process just goes right over your head. It never dawns on you. And I'm not dissing people. I'm just saying that this is the mentality, because I deal with a lot of different circles, different communities. There are other people who send me money. It's just because. Why about I'm praying for you, and I see what you're doing. That was really great. Bang, here's money. I am enrolled, and I take this and I take that, and it costs me this much. It costs me $100 a month. I pay $125 a month because that's my contribution. You understand what I'm saying? These are the things that reflect your values and you investing in the tomorrow, for not just for yourself, but for other people. It's a part of maturity. It's a part of growing up. It's a part of understanding that the things that you really want to see happen in the world are not going to happen unless you invest in them, unless you make them happen. So, unless you want Beyonce and Lil Boosie and Killer Mike and T.I. and, you know, a whole bunch of entertainers, unless you just are comfortable with them being your spokespeople in every area of life, if it's politics, if it's religion, if it's history, if it's culture, if it's family, hey, you know what? If you think that those cats are suitable thought leaders and influencers and the institution builders for our community, then more power to you. I personally don't agree. I'm not against what any of those folks are doing, but I'm definitely certain that they are not trained and steeped in serving the spiritual, ancestral, cultural needs of our community. And they're not supposed to be, because they're entertainers. Okay? So everyone has their lane. You got to pick your lane. And you got to put your investment into that lane and make it grow and flourish no matter what, because it's a value that you know is part of the inevitable. Right? That's part of spiritual maturity. Right? That is part of spiritual maturity. So that's my message for today, and I hope that it's meaningful. I hope that you understand where I'm coming from, and you feel compelled to grow and mature in your practice and go beyond the childhood stage of just letting somebody else assume responsibility for all your tomorrows. I hope that you take away from this message a very clear directive to start looking at what it means to be an adult within this practice and what it means to bring this practice to adulthood collectively. How do we raise each other up and start acting collectively like adults, like people who are spiritually mature and people who understand um, what's happening next, people who understand that all of us are going to die, but that our values need to continue, and they're not going to continue just because we say nice things. They're not going to continue just because we wear pretty clothes. They're not going to continue because we have an extensive, array of books and music. They're going to continue because we built institutions, and those institutions live and survive and thrive far longer than any one of our individual lives. All right. So if you got more questions, please visit me, obafemio.com or rishalifestyle.com. And of course, you can make comments here on this thread if you want to have a deeper conversation, and I'll be more than happy to continue the conversation as time permits. Until then, many blessings to you and your families, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Bye for now. Odabo.